author of Jailhouse Strong. He is the youngest person ever to bench 600 at 22 years old. He's the first person in history to do it. So I wanted to start off with, Josh, I saw a quote that you posted on your Instagram about a few days ago, and I loved it.
Yep.
The most important body part is the mind.
Absolutely.
With the will and the knowledge, you can perform near miracles. And, Stuart McRobert said that. So when he talks about the mind and literally performing near miracles, like what do you take from that quote?
I think the most powerful force on earth is like the human mind and how focused it is. If you have the right focus, you can accomplish anything. So, but you have to have the right mindset to have that focus. So I think a lot of people, just think they're going to magically get there, and you have to understand by developing your mindset, like training, it's an active process. It's not like you just decide to be a positive or successful mindset one day.
Yeah, 100%. So now real quick, before we start going into law enforcement, first responder, tactical things.
Yeah.
That mindset, right? And I mean, when you were chasing 600 bench, right? Just that mindset that I'm trying, because not only were your environment had a huge role, right? Were you training down in Metroflex for that?
Not at Metroflex at that time. I was training in California at that time, but I was driving, really far to do it. I mean, oftentimes a couple hours, because I was every weekend I drive, 2.5 hours to train. So,
well, yeah,
each way.
Which is that right there in itself, just driving there, you said 2.5 hours?
Yes, sir.
2.5 hours each way is just, that's a process in itself. So, like, if you could take me, like, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, like, just like a month out before that 600, or really the environment and the guys you were with and how much that credit helped you. Because now imagine if you're training for that 600 bench by yourself, doing things. Do you think that has a big effect on, would have had a big effect on you?
No, because I would have done it anyways, because you're in control, of your, like, so you create your environment too. And I always say, like, obviously you get a nice synergy from the right training partners, things like that. Of course, however, you're ultimately in control, and I'd way rather have no company than bad company. You know what I mean? So I would have found a way, because, like, for instance, when I did my deadlift, I had a big deadlift goal to hit an 810, and I did, and I trained 100% alone for that. So
yeah, that's
gotta make it happen. But I'm always thinking, like, obviously, if you can get the right environment training wise, that's a good synergy to have. But the wrong environment, like they say, a negative. There's been actually research showing that, that a negative thought's 4 to 5 more times more powerful than a positive thought. So with the environment there with training partners, I would say a negative training partner is 4 to 5 times more, valuable or powerful in the wrong way than a positive one.
Right. Yeah. Because
sure.
You talked about this too, and this is a fact, right? 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. Most of them are negative. That's correct,
yeah,
right?
90. Yeah, so 60 to 60. You have 60,000 plus thoughts a day, and if you don't do anything to actively, work on your mindset, 90% of those thoughts will be repetitive ones you've already had. But yeah, 60. And if you also don't do anything to actively, help your mindset, 60 to 80% of those thoughts are negative. Where negative thoughts 4 to 5 times more powerful. You always say, okay, we're talking about this mindset stuff. How do you get started? Well, like it might be like a big process. The easiest way is, when you verbalize a negative thought, it's about 10 times more powerful than if you just have it. You know what I mean? So if you start, like, actually putting it into the air and saying it out there's a chant or a prayer, it becomes that.
The basic mantra.
Yeah, basically you have to be really careful with that. So, I mean.
Yeah, it's like, the thing about our thoughts is, like, we control them. We're the ones that are in control. We're the ones, if we're going to make them real, we're going to give them the most power. No one else is controlling our thoughts, and that's what a lot of people I especially going through this time now, like, with the corona stuff, everyone's isolated and stuff. I personally think depression is going to increase. Maybe relapse are going to increase. Like you said, if you were a guy that was in the gym and you had a good group, and now you're by yourself and you never really experienced that before, I guess we could talk about
time's either going to work for you or against you. I mean, if your goal is to kill time just to get through this, you're essentially killing yourself, because you're shortening your life. You can either use this as a resource to make yourself better, or you can, make it like you're down in the dumps.
Yeah, that's a lot of more people need to hear that, because
time's a resource. I mean, Well, you know, if you're not stuck at home, now you have the opportunity to do things that you may have been neglecting before.
But
Yeah, you're like,
would you agree, like now you're stuck at home, right? And that you hear a lot of people say, and even first responders, you know, they don't have enough time to work out, you know, and it's like, well, this is the time if you are home
yep,
to start reading, researching, you know, YouTube videos, nutrition
yep,
plans, start writing it down and slowly get into a schedule. And it's not a big change, right, Josh? It's got to be at least maybe a minor change a day and slowly over time. Like, you know, it's simple. It's so cliche, but brick by brick, you know. Today I
yep.
went for a 10-minute walk. You know, now the next day I went for a 10-minute walk and I changed one meal and just things like that. Like, I think this is the perfect deload for the body and the mind. Would you agree?
If you need it, and then other people, it's a good chance to actually get after it because now you no longer can say, "Oh, I have no time." Well, okay, you know, even okay if you like if you, even if you're like have no if you have no money, you're stuck in, you know, you're living in a homeless shelter. You could still do bodyweight training in that homeless shelter. You know, you may not have access to a state of the art gym and be able to get ready for a powerlifting meet optimally, but you can improve your work capacity, possibly develop some hypertrophy, burn some body fat, things like that, by taking advantage of the situation. You know, the self-development, you know, the biggest investment you can make is yourself. So right now you can read those books you've been neglecting. Again, if you have no money, you could get on, you know, a lot of companies right now are giving internet for free, so you can get online and use plenty of free resources. So there's ways you can get better during this time, and it can add. Let's say people go to prison. There's like some people use that time as a resource, and you know those jailhouse lawyers and stuff that come out and real successful. Other people are just come out. You know, you basically come. You know, with this time on your hands, you're become more of who you are, and you have a choice to be who you are. So,
It's all about perception. I think that,
yep.
like you just said, if we use our time valuable and we don't get so stuck in the now, and again, fear is a big thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fear, it's the same thing as a thought. We create it, we destroy it. If we don't get so sucked into this now and we're looking for the future, this is a perfect chance if you do need it to get better, you know?
The
And if
map's
you
not the
want,
territory. You're exactly right. So, like, we have a visual representation in what it means to us. Like, you look at a map of the United States. That's not the United States. That's just an image of the United States. So, you're creating your own reality here. You know what I mean? So.
it's exactly, everyone is, you know, and it's just that whole toilet paper thing boggles my mind. I think it makes people feel good that they're safe, but again, you know, that's only going to last, like you said, if you're trying to kill time, it's only going to last for so long in your mind because you created it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that is a really good point.
And also, you have a good chance to cultivate your relationships and stuff. You don't spend enough time with your kids, your family, whoever. This is a good chance to cultivate the relationship.
And really teach them not just school things, right, Josh? Just more about life. Like, you know, really what's going
Yeah.
on here. Really, you know, this is the perfect time if you are struggling to kind of kill your old bad habits, to kind of become reborn and kind of get rid of your old ways in life that
And
maybe.
let's go on this for people. I think we need to touch on that people during this time, the temptation is to eat bad food. The temptation is, even if someone, like, I know we want to keep people sober and stuff, but let's say somebody has no problem like social drinking. It hasn't been a problem before. It could become a problem now because that's going to be the inclination. Like, oh yeah, you know, I'm always eating clean. So like, let's order pizza and just drink beer. The thing is, you start putting crap in your body, it's psychologically going to mess with your mind. If you need, like, there's a book called Spark on this. If you want, like, a bunch of references beyond what I'm saying that show, like, you know, the tie-ins of the mind and the body.
Spark, like SPARK?
I think that's I think the SPRQ is Nike thing, so it must be SPRK. I read it like when it came out. This was like, you know, over 10 years ago.
All right, I definitely wrote that down. Hopefully this records well. I'm going to put this up on YouTube, so if people did miss it, I'm going to put all the links and stuff in there, the link of your book and everything. So now we just hit the Corona a little bit. I'm trying to, you know, get away from that a little bit because some people are becoming obsessed with it. It could become like an obsession with people, you know, neurotic. You know, they got to watch.
Yeah.
The whole Corona thing is taking over my life. I can't do anything. But again, that's your perception. But we don't want to forget about everything else that's happening out in the real world, right?
Of course.
So, first responders and military in general. First of all, thanks for taking this chat, Josh. This live chat. Really appreciates and shows that you support. You know.
Yeah, and we'll do this. And if we need more information, we can do this a few more times because I want to make sure people have what they need to get going. So
yeah, this is a little quick on the fly one, and hopefully people can Especially if you want more, if you have more questions, you know, definitely ask at the end and ask
Mm-hmm.
on YouTube and see what we can figure out to make it better.
Sure.
But let's hit a little bit about, let's just hit about the stress levels and the mindset, because, you know, 20% of everyday people, and this is statistics, this is, you know, give or take,
Sure.
you know, suffer from PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
20% of everyday people, right? PTSD, anxiety, depression, just
Sure.
from anything that happened in their life.
Okay.
This increased to 30% for first responders.
And
right?
I pulled some statistics for this, so that's all I had prepared for this was the statistics. So hang tight here a second. Keep going. I had a feeling where I had to put it down.
Now, let's not even talk about, like, of course, the stress of the job, right? So once you have the stress of the fit, we got to break it up into a few parts, because you have the stress of the actual police work, right? The people we run into, the gun runs, the knife jobs, the family disputes, that's stress on its own, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Then you can break it up into, you know, your supervisor, your coworker stress. Then you have your family life stress, and then you have your time stress of all the shift change, the hours change, the meals you miss. So there's so many different things.
And that's what I want to talk about with the shift changes. So there's a lot of short-term effects on that. Like, I mean, you have like gastrointestinal symptoms, increased risk of injuries and incidents, insomnia.
Well, I have colitis. Just I'll say it straight up. You know, I do have colitis, so it definitely has an effect on me. I work 4 to 12. So, you know, I don't get home till 1 a.m. every single day.
Well, okay. So what else I can do is the long-term effects. This raise heart disease by about 40%. They can have obviously depression and mood disorders from lower levels of serotonin. And then you could drink or something to spike the serotonin, but then when you stop, it gets worse. You know what I mean? So it's not. It may be like eat a bad food. Why do you want to eat like ice cream at night or something? Because it kind of raises your serotonin levels short term.
It's like that little Band-Aid effect. Same thing. Yeah, you said
it's a Band-Aid effect.
Yeah.
Alcohol or you know, any kind of drug. That's why people do it. So. But when you start bleeding everywhere and keep putting more and more Band-Aids on, you can mask it for a while, but all of a sudden you're gonna bleed out somehow, right? And it's gonna be bad.
Matter of time, man.
So 3 times. Okay, so the diabetes and metabolic syndrome are about 3 times higher for shift workers than non-shift workers. So we'll define a shift worker as anybody that's on a like abnormal sleep schedule. So like if you're a swing shift, somewhat, a graveyard shift, 100% type of thing. A lot of fertility issues. Breast cancer can increase by about 50%. So there's all sorts of statistics that show that this is an issue. So
yeah, and you know, as an NYPD, we work 5 days on, 2 days off, 5 days on, 3 days off. So it's never like a steady Monday through Friday. You know, it's always rotating. And the human body, if I'm correct, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is supposed to fall asleep anywhere between 10 and 11 p.m. at night, right? That's basically how the human clock works.
I'm even more extreme on that. I say I believe in that old adage of every hour of sleep before midnight's about worth 2 after.
Yeah, and I've heard who did I hear say that? I think Stan Efferding. He did a huge thing on
a lot of people say that. Yeah.
You know, back in Virginia in your seminar, it was the same thing. So just by knowing all those risks and factors. Now, what would you say tip-wise to kind of control that the best you can? I mean, we can sit here and say work out, eat healthy and all that thing, but I'm not going to lie. I'm not perfect. There's some times where I run out of meals or I didn't pack a meal and then I'm kind of like, shit, I'm hungry and I got to eat something on the fly. So, you know, in the patrol car or in the
I'd
office.
say if you're 90% of the time good with that, like you're eating healthy and stuff, you're going to get the benefits. The problem with that is when you say 90% is people can develop bad habits. So I always say you're well off, you know, getting a little extreme regimented for a little while, and then you can go to that 90%. You know what I mean? So you eventually want to get like 100% to develop some habits. That's going to be anywhere from like 3 weeks up to, you know, depending on what research says, about 21 to 66 days to develop a habit. So if you can do that, then you can get to that 90% where, hey, you know what? Like, no, do I think like, yeah, it's your kid's birthday party. Should you not be able to have pizza? Well, unless you're getting ready for a bodybuilding contest, yeah, you should. So, but it's not. But if your whole life's been about fun food and, you know, neglecting workouts, it's not going to kill you to go through a mini little boot camp and, you know, develop some good habits, and then you could be somewhat of a normal person. I also think when you get that way, you'll appreciate those good foods more. You know, you'll appreciate that pizza more and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that would be exactly. It's more about appreciation, right? Like when you do have that cheat meal, it feels better than having the cheat meal every day or every other day, maybe every 2 weeks, you know. And
Yeah,
again, it doesn't have to be a crazy cheat. It could be just like a small thing, ice cream, like you said. I actually like
for
the
sure.
Halo Top. I don't know if you had the Halo
Mhm.
Top ice cream, but that I do like that.
I don't know that I like if I was gonna like those kind of foods, I would go for some New York pizza myself.
There you go. A little. How you
Yeah,
doing?
yeah, exactly.
The another
Do they
question I
still
get
got
a
that? Is there a place there called Big Nick's still?
Big Nicks.
It was a,
Maybe
I
was that in
loved it. It was
Manhattan?
like a what?
In
It was
Manhattan
a yeah,
or no?
Manhattan.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that I would have. If there's any Manhattan cops in here, help us out. I'm a Bronx kid, so you know,
Okay,
that's only good as it goes. I'm not too far from Arthur Avenue. I'm like 3 minutes away from Arthur Avenue. It's on the borderline
okay,
of my precinct. So that's one place, if we ever come to New York, that you'd have to check out Arthur Avenue.
sure.
Um, I get a lot, dude, like, I go to, like, especially on the 4 to 12s, right? Like, you,
Hmm.
you get out of work at, let's say, 11:35 p.m. You don't get home till 12:30, and then you can't fall asleep till 2 or 3, 4 in the morning, and then you wake up at 12:01, and it's time to go to work. Like, dude, I just don't have time to, especially if they have a family. Like, I don't have time to go to the gym. Well, there's a thing called a meal period where you get an hour meal, hopefully as a cop. Now, if you recommended 20 to 30 minutes, right, just of the best, we're not talking about powerlifting, trying to build as much mass as we can. We're talking about to eliminate these diseases that you just read off, right? The diabetes, the heart issues. 20 to 30 minutes. What would you tell a firefighter or a cop or
And do they have
EMT?
access to like weights or anything?
Yeah, because most precincts have dumbbells up to 100. They have barbells. They have, they have all that. They have all that.
Yeah, so you can. I would say there you kind of like you'd want to do some sort of body weight training and some sort of kind of use that to warm up and like maybe one major lift or one strongman movement if you only have that much time for sure.
Like
Because
more
a
like a
lot of what we
circuit.
focus on is depending also on strength training. So a lot of what I'll do with people if you have the equipment set up in the precinct saying there's no one else using it is it's PHA training called tactical PHA training. We're doing like say like 4 or 5 exercises in a row. You might have to notch down the intensity a little bit, but not to the point of let me pull up I'm gonna pull up an example. I got one on my computer right here. Hang on. So basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna do different. So here's an example of like a sequence in a tactical PHA training. It'd be like a dumbbell incline press. You would go with your 15 rep max, but you'd only do 6 to 10 reps. You would go squats, with your 12 rep max, 5 to 8 reps. Farmer's walk for 50 feet, 80% of what you could actually do. Neutral grip lat pull downs, 10 to 15 reps of what you could do for 20 reps. Then a neck exercise. You'd repeat that 3 times.
And that's the
Okay,
circuit right there. That could
that's a
take
circuit
150,
three.
right?
That you could do that, and you could if you could do this in like for sure in that amount of time. So if you could do 2 of those like circuit deals like that, that's called PHA training. So what you in the exercise selection could be adapted to what you have. You have no squat rack. You could do like dumbbell lunges. You have no incline press. You can do Hindu push-ups. You could keep adapting this to what you need. Ultimately, the best training I think is going to be strongman training for you guys. But if you don't have access to that and you're not training right now, something like this is 100 times better than nothing. I mean, for just a
Then just
health.
going in, just then literally just, and I'm a former powerlifter. Then just
Yeah,
going into the gym, doing a 5x5 and leaving on the bench. You know what I mean? Like, is that really going to
absolutely.
help us in the real world? Right? Does that make sense?
No, the way that would help you in one way is it's okay. It's a good way to develop strength. So like of
And
like
push the mind. Push the mind.
push the mind, but like for instance, like your speed, like your foot speed is going to be increased up into the point of about 2.5 times your body weight in a squat and deadlift. So by default, and not really like practicing running, you will get faster until you get to that threshold of a 2.5 times body weight, just because your ground force production. So that would help you. Then you look at doing these tasks under load, because I don't know everywhere else where it is. The average Fort Worth, cop's about 25 pounds of gear or so. Well, then you get your SWAT teams.
Firefighters are 75 pounds, which is
SWAT teams 64, 64 pounds here, and they could be in a standoff that's 15 hours, and then that becomes even more important because no longer are you just propelling yourself through space to run, you have gear on you. The average, warfighter in Afghanistan was 99 pounds of gear and luckily they dialed us back in Grenada. Remember Grenada? I mean, it was like 80 something when we had that it was like I think it was like a 3-day deal or something. We went in there and just did what we had to do and get out. But the point being, when researching like this kind of load carriage stuff, there were some examples of people that 140 pounds of gear in there, and they're literally having to stop and like lay on the ground for a while. Thankfully, it wasn't a very tough opposition force, and they were able to handle their business. But so that's where the 5x5 could be helpful, is if somebody doesn't have the requisite levels of strength, the best way to to perform better under load is going to be through additional strength and hypertrophy. But like you're saying, I would still say what I just said would be better, because
you only have 20 minutes, right?
We only have 20 minutes, and you're not making strength the sacrificial lamb. You're still using weights. So if you're training with 8 reps with what you could do 15, I guess it's not perfect for strength, but you're still gaining strength. But you're getting, this is like a guy on Instagram named Taylor Lopez. This is initially who I experimented this type of training on, but we did really extreme on him, doing all sorts of strongman events, heavy and stuff. And he can tell you the story. It's his story to tell, not mine. But he's had some, he's major situations out there, and where this has come under fatigue and duress, he's able to perform with a clear head because of that conditioning level. That's where strongman, if you can do even another guy in here I've done it with a guy named Butch Steinel. He's his thing's called,
I follow him. I think I follow him on
Guardian Response. So they train churches how to deal with active shooters. So when this ass clown in Fort Worth tried to open fire in a church, he got met with a boom. And they're trained it's how they train these guys. So I went out to train with them because I work with them on a strength conditioning. So I went out to train with them. So what we were doing is this kind of tactical stuff, and then we'd go in there and practice shooting at a target right after.
Yeah.
So you got Steve Coyne just logged. I've been looking. I guess I just realized you can see what people are saying right now.
Yeah.
But Steve Coyne, civilian, that's who else I experimented the tactical PHA on.
Oh, awesome.
Because
Steve, how you doing, man?
Yeah, I have a new book coming out on this for tactical strongman. This is not about selling anything. We're going to keep doing this until people understand this is not about that. But that's for the book. I wanted to experiment this on people that aren't law enforcement as well, experiment on myself as well.
Yeah, because tactics save lives. Law enforcement or not, man. No one needs to. The more people that are tactically aware, they're going to save themselves, their family, and people around them. And
absolutely.
Always helps. And we talk about when you.
I've never been a shootout, but I would imagine your heart rate's pretty high. I don't think you're probably because obviously, if we talked about the seminar with a hierarchy of you're at a normal state, you can rank things from 1 to 5, 1 to 6 on, how aroused you want to be. For competitive shooting, you'd want to be. It's like a golf putt. You'd want to be as your heart rate down, relaxed. But that's a competitive shooting thing where no one's actually trying to hurt you. Where this is I've never been a shootout, but I would imagine your heart rate goes from you're walking around at 70 or 80 to spikes to 170 or 80.
So, and it's funny, it's the same thing. If you in the Bronx, you get a gun run or a knife shot, a male shot, that adrenaline starts pumping for a little bit, it goes away. But now, Josh, imagine that happening 2-3 times a week, and all that adrenaline that's pumping out of nowhere, and that's going to have an effect on your body long term.
It is going to have. That's where we haven't talked so much about firefighters, but that's where
structure fires.
Yeah, structure fire. So you're sitting in your firehouse or laying there sleeping. All of a sudden, you get the bell rings and you have to jump up. That's why they have such a high heart attack rate, because you're thinking man, firefighters for the most part are in good shape and all this. The stereotype is they sit around there and just lay around and lift weights all day. But it's not true. But yeah, cook food, good food. Yeah. No, seriously, they're jumping up out of bed. I mean, and that's why this job's so stressful too. You're going from even cops, you're sitting there walking around and you have to be 100% ready. So that's where you're talking about how's this like powerlifting. Well, it's like powerlifting in the sense of you have to perform at 100%. You know, if you're supposed to deadlift 600, 90%, that's 540. That's a crappy meet. You know, you perform at 90% of your job, all of a sudden, okay,
That's a huge that could be a life or death situation.
And you guys are under so much scrutiny. Not only do you guys have to do your job, you know, you have some maniac that you have to like treat like he's a human being that's like a worthless, you know, piece of crap that shouldn't be treated like a human being. And then like you violated his rights because you're supposed to stop him, but then like you can't go 100% to stop him because like obviously someone's going to defend my family, or I have to defend my family. I'm not going to worry about their rights, or if I'm using excessive force. You know, I want to kill the person, find out where they're buried, then piss on the grave. You guys can't go in there with that mentality.
We gotta come home at the end of the night.
You got to come home at the end of the way. Then you're under scrutiny by politicians and stuff to like not, you know, to treat people like, you know, they're people when they're not acting like it.
Well, especially in New York State, the bail reform. I mean, there's a lot of things that are going down. That's definitely another time. Talk for another time. But,
yeah,
you know,
what is it now? Like stand down, in like some states like California, New York, to tell people to stand down to people burglarizing houses because you know
upset because they're making arrests, they're making collars, and within 6 hours, Josh, they're back out on the street. I've had situations where they collar him for a burglary.
Yeah.
6 hours later, he's back out doing it again. 10 hours later, he's back out doing it again, 3 times in like 2 days. So, I mean, and that's another thing. We talk about the corona, the amount of people that are inside now, family disputes are going to increase. The juveniles out in the streets are going to increase. I've already seen it in the Bronx. Burglaries are increasing.
Aren't some police departments telling them to stand down to that?
Yeah, I just saw not New York City. I think it was
California, I think.
Was it Philadelphia or Cincinnati? Someone posted them on Instagram where do not collar people for these low offense crimes and things like that. It really, and then that's another part of maybe some depression or feeling worthless is how can you do your job when no one really backs you up? You know, no matter what you do, especially in the police world and first responder world, you're going to get criticized. And the same thing as a coach, right? But it gets criticized more because we're public figures, you know what I mean? And it's like
way more.
Josh thinking they don't want to make the wrong move, and then Josh, we know is you can't freeze out there. Once you freeze, then that's when you really can get hurt. So we really
and it's tough, and that's why training's so important because you have to like you're basically taking someone down, but not with full force. That's what would be the most stressful part to me is like, okay, you're expected to stop these bad situations, but you really can't do everything you can do because that can be like excessive force, you know.
Yeah, the thing is to get them in cuffs, right, Josh? Is you can't beat them to a pulp and then put them in cuffs over. You got every situation is different. Every arrest situation is different. If you're going from a petty larceny to a robbery, you're chasing someone, a man with a gun, a man without a gun, and that's what they're going to criticize. They're going to use the use of force model and say, did you follow these correct steps towards the situation? Which is sometimes it's ridiculous.
Especially if somebody like, if somebody like, I mean, not everybody's a bad person is going to be like physically weak or something. It might be somebody that like toe to toe would already handle you or at least be on your level. And then you're supposed to do that without using excessive force. Like no one goes into a bar fight with, like,
right.
Oh yeah. I'm going to, I'll go about 70% just to handle the situation.
Yeah, someone verbal comment. Oh yeah, verbal jiu-jitsu saves lives. It's gotten me out of a lot of situations. Why I'm here, talking the person down, and I think the job needs to do a lot more training on that. Verbal jiu-jitsu.
And also just the look. I mean, if you're training hard and you look what's the best way to avoid these situations? Well, I think if you're a civilian, like for me, it's not going into these situations. You don't go to like bad places. You just avoid that, and that's 99% the best self-defense is not even being in the first place. But then the next part for you guys is if you look more physically intimidating, like you're training your neck, your forearms, things like that, you can deflate a situation walking into it because
No, exactly. Gas station ready, right?
Yeah, it's not about just going out and being some maniac. It's about like self-preservation. So that's where it is. So I agree on the verbal jiu-jitsu thing. I think that's huge. Like if you know the mindset stuff and how you can talk to somebody. I guess I was talking about before, like when the crap's hit the fan type of thing.
Yeah. I'm just trying to, because I don't want to run out of time here, John.